dessa proposta ética.
Now, Dharma, and of course, to understand South Asian civilization, is perhaps the most important concept or word, because it means law, religion, ethics, what in a given situation is the right thing to do, and each profession and each class in society has its own dharma, its own set of ethical duties.
Então, efetivamente, para se entender toda a atitude das pessoas do sul da Ásia, esta palavra Dharma é muito importante. Ela quer dizer não apenas lei, como religião, ética, a coisa certa a fazer em qualquer situação em que você precisa de uma orientação.
And Ashoka comes at an important time when the Indian religion was evolving from a tribal religion to there were sects that were trying to change it, such as Buddhism and Jainism, which proposed a universal dharma, a universal ethic, because the traditional understanding of dharma was, well, each person in society, each class, has a certain set of duties, and this is what keeps society together. Whereas Buddhism was quite revolutionary because it proposed a universal ethical duties of non-violence and so on.
Então, o que acontece é que naquela ocasião havia ainda uma ética muito local, tribal, relacionada à religião indiana, mas com o advento do budismo buscou-se uma ética universal. O que seria válido para todos e não apenas para grupos de diferentes sociedades.
And so Ashoka, I will describe a bit what his new system was, and in these 14 rock edicts. And
então, agora o Sr. Rich vai fazer uma descrição de qual foi a proposta de Ashoka naqueles 14 itens descritos na pedra.
So one of the first principles, as he says, is that after expressing his regrets for killing all these people in the war, he says that it's that all living beings should be protected from violence and injury.
Então, após ele ter se arrependido de ter feito todo aquele estrago naquela guerra, ele diz que todo ser humano tem direito a ser protegido de qualquer violência.
Não todo ser sentiente, animais, tudo, não ser humano.
Yes, então, corrigindo.
Que pode sentir.
Todo ser vivo tem que ser protegido, consciente. Todo ser consciente precisa ser protegido de qualquer forma de violência.
And this Ashoka converted to Buddhism, but he tries to promote a secular ethic inspired by Buddhism, but which all people of different religions and beliefs and ethnic origins in his multinational empire can agree on and live on, and live by. And the first principle is that all living beings suffer, and therefore we should do everything in life to reduce the amount of pain and suffering, not just for humans, but for animals, for all living things.
Então, ele pensou em fazer uma ética que fosse secular, aplicada a qualquer ser humano, independente de credo religioso ou de grupo étnico a que pertencesse, em que todo o sofrimento que o ser humano já passa fosse diminuído, houvesse um esforço para de fato diminuir qualquer sofrimento por parte do ser consciente, animal, homem, etc., dos reinos.
So he says, for example, well, in the royal kitchens, we used to every day, because we were eating huge quantities of meat, because he must have had thousands of people in the court, he says we would kill thousands of animals every day to eat. And I've concluded this is a bad thing to kill animals to eat. So from now on, I myself am going to become almost a vegetarian, and we will only kill 2 peacocks and 1 deer in the royal kitchens. Now, it's very interesting. He doesn't say, he says we're going to become 99% vegetarian, but not quite 100%. There must have been some people, maybe his wife or something, who still like to eat meat. So he said, we're only going to kill 2 birds and one deer, and I hope we can stop killing all animals in the future.
Ok. Então ele inicia observando que nas cozinhas reais havia um grande número de animais mortos para o preparo da refeição. Então ele mesmo se propõe a ser vegetariano e propõe toda esta atitude, respeitando as exceções de alguém que ainda quisesse muito comer carne, dizendo que apenas 2 pavões poderiam ser mortos de vez em quando para introduzir algum elemento desses na alimentação.
We don't know why he makes this exception. I suspect, well, maybe his wife or his son said, there's no way I'm going to stop eating meat, or something like that.
Então ele mesmo pergunta, eu não sei por que ele fez essa exceção, talvez sua própria esposa ou filho quisessem muito comer alguma coisa nesse sentido.
Yeah. And then he says that he's going to set up government-subsidized medical services, hospitals, all over his kingdom, for both humans and for animals. And he's going to do this all over his kingdom. His kingdom was very good, big. It included most of today's Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. It was bigger than today's India, and interestingly enough, it included most of today's Afghanistan. So he says, I'm going to set up hospitals supported by the state, both for humans and for animals.
Então, uma iniciativa que foi tomada naquela época, que não era apenas da Índia, como nós conhecemos agora, mas ela incluía todo um território maior do Afeganistão, Bangladesh, em que se propunha a oferecer assistência hospitalar às pessoas e animais.
Yeah. And he says also he's going to promote the growth and use of medicinal herbs all over his kingdom.
Também ele ia propor e promover o uso de ervas medicinais em todo o reinado.
So this was a kind of state public health care system for humans and animals already in the 3rd century BC.
Então, na verdade, essa foi uma iniciativa do primeiro serviço de assistência médica nacional, não é? No século 3 antes de Cristo.
And then he sets out 2 edicts on religious toleration, which are very interesting. He says that he's come to the conclusion that all religions and schools of philosophy really seek something similar. He says purity of mind and self-control, and he says that also that he thinks that all sects and religions really share what he calls an essential doctrine. So this is a very ecumenical view of incredibly tolerant and open-minded enlightenment. He says that all religions and sects basically are trying to find their own way to truth and seek the good. So he says, I'm going to give state support to all religions and philosophies and sects.
Ok. Uma vez que ele também percebe que todos os povos buscam, através das diferentes religiões, a pureza de mente e o autocontrole, ele percebe então que elas têm este elemento em comum, ele passa a dar apoio a todas as formas de religião e as formas sectárias de pensamento.
Yeah. He says that he calls this that they all share an essential doctrine, and then he says he wants to encourage public discussion of different religions and philosophies, because he says if these different religions and sects would just stop criticizing one another and listen to one another, and he believes that through public discussion, they can realize that they share some of these common things. So this is, for example, what Amartya Sen has said, well, Ashoka, of course, was an autocrat, but he tried to promote certain principles that we associate with modern democracy, the principle of free speech and an open discussion and things like that.
Então ele encoraja que haja discussões públicas sobre as diferentes religiões. Ele, naquela época, já fazia o que se faz hoje na democracia, que é a fala livre sobre os assuntos religiosos, que aí, sendo discutidos mais e mais, eles entendem que o elemento comum é o mesmo.
I mean, Ashoka was an emperor and an autocrat, but he does, in the 3rd century BC, try to promote certain, what we think of today as democratic principles.
Então veja, apesar dele ser um imperador no 3º século antes de Cristo, ele já praticava uma atitude democrática naquele momento.
And he also has other measures, for example, encouraging respect for the family, for priests, for the old people, for the poor. He issues clemency for prisoners. He abolishes the death penalty for most things, not everything, but for most things.
Um outro elemento que foi introduzido, portanto, na atitude junto às pessoas é o respeito à família, o respeito às pessoas idosas, à paz, e junto aos prisioneiros, então, uma atitude de clemência, uma atitude de perdão, que é uma coisa humana.
And he promotes nature protection. He says there's been a practice of burning down forests too much, and that to burn a forest, it kills the living things, and forests should be protected as much as possible.
Então, naquele momento, ele também percebia a importância da proteção da natureza. Existia, então, a consciência de que você tem que preservar todo elemento vivo, a natureza, então, sendo um elemento que não queria que tivesse queimadas, nada disso.
And then he finishes by saying, and he's speaking to future generations and also to his sons and grandchildren and so on, and he says, well, that the greatest victory, the greatest conquest is not over the outside world, whether it be military or what have you. That the greatest conquest is the conquest of Dhamma, and this is the victory over oneself. So he urges his sons and his descendants, and you sense that he's speaking to history, the future, saying, well, that I've learned myself through painful experience that the greatest, Ashoka at that time was arguably the most powerful person in the world. He had the biggest empire. And he says that I, the great conqueror, that the greatest conquest is not over military or material, it's over oneself. It's a conquest of Dharma, of ethics, of controlling oneself and promoting nonviolence.
Então, naquele momento, ele que era considerado a pessoa mais poderosa do mundo, Ashoka definia como uma grande conquista, não qualquer vitória militar ou sobre coisas, mas a capacidade de conquistar o Dharma interior, que é o conhecimento interior e uma atitude de pleno respeito com todas as formas de vida.
So these rock edicts are all over India. You can see them. Some of them are in remote places. Around 14 years later, he has erected, again all over India, pillars that are around 60 or 70 feet high, maybe around 25 meters high, with inscriptions around these pillars. And so it's his second set of edicts 7 so-called pillar edicts where he sort of builds on and concludes his ethical system.
Então, 14 anos mais tarde, ele consegue imprimir em rochas também em todo o país, de altura mais ou menos de 25 metros, essas propostas éticas para que elas sejam conhecidas pelas pessoas e praticadas.
Well, this is there are two sects. First are the rock edicts, and then 14 years later, he has pillars made. Pillars, yeah.
Not rocks.
Not rocks. And they're about 25 meters high, and they have a second series of edicts, 7 new edicts.
Então, a forma com que ele divulgou tudo isso, inicialmente eram as faces das rochas, e 14 anos mais tarde, eram em pilastras que tinham ao redor delas essas inscrições.
New inscriptions. And there are 3 new things that he proposes. He says,
e nesse momento, então, ele propõe mais 3 elementos novos.
And he says, well, first of all, there should be uniformity in judicial and legal procedure and punishment. And of course, as a lawyer, I find that very interesting because he says you have to have the same legal treatment for all classes of people.
Então, inicialmente, ele coloca uma uniformização na forma legal de lidar com os casos. Então, uma uniformidade judicial em que as diferentes questões fossem lidadas da mesma maneira. No momento inicial, ele tinha até abolido a pena de morte.
And he's saying that every person in his kingdom should be treated equally in the same way before the law.
Então, perante a lei, qualquer pessoa do reinado dele deveria ser tratado de forma igual perante a lei.
Again, this is an incredibly advanced, almost modern way of thinking.
E, novamente, então, nós vemos que, naquela ocasião, essa atitude é totalmente moderna e inovadora para a época.
And then he has another edict, which is like a law for the protection of different species of animals. And he names all the species that have to be protected. And he says something very important. He says, well, I recognize that we have to, in my kingdom, some people have to kill certain kinds of animals. He says, I'm a vegetarian, but I encourage people not to eat animals, but I realize that some animals have to be hunted or killed. But all useless animals should be protected and never be killed. The animals are of no use for human beings. They should be protected absolutely from any harm or any harm.
Então, quanto à natureza, ele faz uma lista, inclusive, de espécies a serem protegidas, e com a exceção de alguns animais que ainda possam servir de alimento para pessoas que não se tornaram totalmente vegetarianas, o que ele respeitava, ele colocava que os animais que aparentemente não têm nenhuma utilidade ao ser humano, eles têm que ser totalmente protegidos.
So what this shows is ethic. It's not a practical or utilitarian one. It's based on a deep universal ethical principle as much as possible of non-violence and to protect all life.
Então, nota-se que ele não tinha um interesse utilitário ao adotar essa série de medidas. Ele tinha, sim, uma atitude absolutamente ética, profunda, humanitária.
And then the last edict, and this is his last word to us and to humanity in the future, you might say, he says, well, now for quite a few years I've been trying to promote my new ethical principles of Dharma or Dhamma. And I hope that there is less killing of animals and less violence. But I've noticed, and I've tried to do this, I've seen that this happens in 2 ways. First, through law and through regulation. But then, second, through the English translation of this ancient word is persuasion, but really it's from a word related in Sanskrit and in the language that Ashoka spoke that means both persuasion, it means convincing other people through argument and discussion, and also convincing oneself through meditation, realizing oneself what is the right thing to do. And he says that, and then he cites the example of not killing animals, and he says, well, persuasion and meditation is more effective than outside law and regulation. And I realize that for my new ethic to last, you just can't impose it through laws and regulation, that people themselves have to realize through discussion and also through meditation and reflection that these are the right things to do. For example, the right thing to do is not to kill animals.
Então, numa última palavra sua, ele, depois de ter observado a importância da não violência, da paz, da proteção dos seres conscientes, ele disse que mais importante do que a lei e as regulações que vão impor uma atitude é a capacidade pessoal que cada um desenvolve de persuadir-se a si mesmo e ao outro, assim como de convencer-se pela meditação profunda no que deve ser correto fazer no mundo. Não esperar estar sujeito a uma penalidade devido a uma lei. Ele já terá consciência como ser que sabe avaliar o que é melhor para a vida.
So what he's really talking about is how does lasting social change occur? Is it you do just through law or regulation? There's a kind of a recognition of individual consciousness and individual change, that society changes and has new values. It will only last if it comes not just through changing the laws, but also if people individually together come to a consciousness that it's better to have these new values.
Então ele consegue uma mudança na sociedade, uma mudança que vem muito mais da consciência individual de cada um, de que essa nova atitude vai permear a vida em todos os seus aspectos. Então, naquele momento, mais do que impor essa mudança, ele consegue fazer uma mudança duradoura.
So this is a quite astounding figure in history. You might ask yourself, well, did any of this last? Well,
então, esta pessoa, não é? Foi uma figura muito destacada na história, Ashoka, e aí você para e pensa, isto foi algo que permaneceu?
Well, as it turns out, we do have some historical records that show that some of Ashoka's changes became institutionalized in India. And for example, many hundreds of years later, in the 5th century AD and in the 7th century, there were Chinese Buddhist pilgrims who went to India to bring back the Buddhist scriptures, and they wrote historical accounts of what it was like traveling around India in the 5th century AD and the 7th century AD. That's 700 and 900 years after the death of Ashoka.
Então, efetivamente observou-se que nos séculos 5 e 7 após Cristo, houve registros que mostram que peregrinos chineses indo até a Índia registraram algumas coisas que permaneciam ainda.
And these two, in the history of China, these figures are very important. One is the first one is named Fa Shan, and the second one, who's in the 7th century AD, he's probably the most famous scholar and writer of ancient China in many ways, Huan Zan. So when you go to China, he's a very important figure. And they both wrote, traveling around India, that they saw these hospitals, both for humans and for animals, which had been, everyone said, well, this was originally Ashoka's idea, to set up state-supported hospitals to alleviate the suffering of both humans and animals.
Então veja, nos registros chineses houve menção da existência desses hospitais e a intenção de minimizar o sofrimento humano e dos seres vivos. Então, os próprios registros chineses já são uma evidência de que houve a manutenção dessa atitude que se iniciou mais do que 10 séculos antes.
Now, in my study of Ashoka, I began to realize something very interesting, that you couldn't understand Ashoka entirely without understanding another very important figure in Indian history who preceded him by about 80 years, and who in some ways was his opposite. And this figure's name is Kautilya. And Kautilya was the chief government official, the chief minister of Ashoka's grandfather. Ashoka's grandfather was named Chandragupta, and he founded the dynasty of which Ashoka was the high point.
Na história observamos que antes de Ashoka houve uma figura que foi de bastante importância, que era a pessoa que acompanhava o avô de Ashoka. Ele chamava-se Kautilya.
And Kautilya foi o ministro, he was the chief government official, the chief minister of Ashoka's grandfather.
Minister.
Yeah, the chief minister, the chief government official.
Okay,
chief bureaucrat.
Ok. Então,
Of his grandfather, Chandragupta.
Ok. Então, esse senhor Kautilya era efetivamente o primeiro-ministro lá do avô de Ashoka. Ele tinha uma função oficial.
Yeah. And he was the grandfather of Ashoka, also very important in Indian history, is Chandragupta. He's a great conqueror, and then he begins the dynasty of which Ashoka, it's called the Maurya dynasty, which Ashoka is the high point.
Então, foi este avô dele que tinha iniciado a dinastia, onde Ashoka depois continuou.
And Kautilya is one of the greatest political geniuses in history. He is the brains behind the empire.
Então, este Kautilya foi realmente a mente por trás deste império.
And he creates the whole government system and economic system which Ashoka, around 70 years later, inherits and has to deal with it.
Então, todo esse sistema econômico e de organização do país foi inicialmente proposto nesses moldes novos por esta pessoa, Kautilya.
And we know a lot about Kautilya because he wrote a book which is called the Artha Shastra. Now, Artha in Sanskrit means material wealth, and Shastra means science. So, literally, his great book means economy or political economy.
Então, existem registros de um livro que Kautilya escreveu sobre riqueza material e ciência. E isso seria uma forma de um livro de economia, algo assim.
Like, Kautilya is the first economist.
Então, ele foi o primeiro economista.
And today at the International Monetary Fund in Washington, there's a Kautilya Club of the economists.
E hoje, então, nesse Fundo Monetário americano, existe um Kautilya também.
And he's a very, he's a very modern man in some ways.
Ele foi homem muito moderado.
So Kautilya, in his great treatise on political economy, and it's also a treatise on statecraft, how to run an empire.
Então, ele escreveu um tratado de como dirigir o império.
And he says, well, for many hundreds of years, thinkers and statesmen have tried to identify the fundamental principle of society, the underlying most important thing.
Então, eles foram buscando qual é que, por tantos séculos, qual seria o principal fundamento da organização da sociedade.
And he says, well, the standard answer is Dharma, religion, ethics, duty, law.
Então ele foi observando que era Dharma.
No, he says, others before me have said the most important thing is Dharma, but they're wrong.
Ele falou que antes dele outros disseram que era Dharma, mas eles estavam errados.
It's not ethics, religion, garbage.
Não é
No.
isso. Isso é